Well, I got a special guest here. This is not only our first guest on Heart Has No Limits podcast, but a special guest I hold close to my heart. I don't know if he really knows it, but somebody I looked up to. As soon as I got to LSU, got right behind you and the stretch line. You were number 8. I had watched you the year before, and I was like, this is the guy I need to learn from. Obviously I've looked up for you, and obviously all the things you've done past college has been tremendous. So I really appreciate you coming on here, Jake.
No, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. Share some of your background real quick, just where you started, where you're from, growing up. Was this what you wanted to do? And then obviously where you're at right now.
Yeah, I was born in Maryland. Still got some family out there. Started playing ball when I was 5. Absolutely loved it. Very similar to you, right? Had a passion for it. I remember looking at my dad. We were big Cubs fans when we were younger. Yeah. So, and you got WGN, so you were able to watch it.
Derek Lee, right? All that,
Sosa. Oh, yeah. Ramirez, all of them, man.
Oh, yeah.
And, I remember watching Sammy Sosa hit a home run, and I remember turning around looking at my dad and being like, I want to play Major League Baseball. And it was from that point, and my dad, started pushing me, and we started really focusing on getting into that. And obviously, long story short, I'm still playing the game today, which is an incredible blessing. I am married. I got 2 kids. We're in Miami now, and we're just living life, man.
Living the dream.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, over your whole life, it could have been in high school, college, pro ball. What's been one defining moment in your career or just life that you realized the mental side of it is the separator?
Yeah. That was, so after my rookie year, so I was drafted by Tampa, played 2 full seasons in Tampa in the minors, and then I was traded over to Tampa. It was a big trade, and got to Seattle, and they put me in the Texas League in Arkansas in 2019, and crushed it. Ended up being minor league player of the year for them. And then from that point forward, we got to Tacoma, which was AAA. I was there for about like a month and change, got to the big leagues, and then was able to kind of get my feet underneath me a little bit.
Yeah.
And then 2020 came, crazy year.
Great. Could never imagine that.
Basically, from that point in 2020, as it was for everybody, it was tough. And then 21, I was able to get back into the big leagues, and then I had my rookie year that year. It was a great year. Played a lot. Was able to get my feet wet under some big veterans with Kyle Seager, Felix Hernandez. Some really cool moments with those guys. And then that off season, I remember getting back that off season, and after a long season, especially in the big leagues, it's different, man.
Yeah.
Like, you are just gone. You're exhausted.
Not only body, but freaking
mentally is gone. And I remember getting to the end of that off season, and even after 4 months of being, away, doing my own thing on my own schedule with my family, doing our thing, I remember it was about a week, before heading out to camp, and I remember sitting on the couch with my wife, and dude, I was in tears, like just literally bawling my eyes out. Like, I do not want to do this anymore. Like, I don't care
just
if I've worked
broke down.
Yeah, just done, man. Like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't care if I'm in the spot that I'm in, and I'm a big young prospect with Seattle. They want me here. They want me in the big leagues. They want me playing.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't care. Like, I want to go. Let's go do something else.
Yeah.
And I remember my wife looking at me and being like, like, you're not the only one that has to grind through this. Yeah. Like, we're uplifting our lives to travel with you. And I had, at that time, I had my son and my daughter, and she was like, you have to be sure about this. Like, I'm not uplifting our lives and traveling all over the country if you're not all in.
Yeah.
And basically got myself together, because I still had to go to camp, right? I'm not just going to call Seattle and be like, hey, man, I'm done.
Can't do it.
That's not going to happen. So I ended up getting to camp, and I think it was 24 hours into camp, I got traded to Cincy.
You have any idea it was coming, or was
no,
this both?
I mean, I knew, like, when you're a young guy, and especially on certain teams, like, you kind of have an idea. Like, I remember my agency having some conversations with me over the offseason. I'm like, hey, your name's floating around a little bit. You kind of get a little bit of an idea, especially around, like, winter meetings when all of them get together. But I didn't really think it was going to happen, because, I mean, I just finished my rookie year. They loved me. They traded big names for me. Like, I don't think I'm going anywhere. and they end up trading me. And so I come over to Cincy, and, you know, when you get thrusted into a new environment, new coaches, new players, you kind of like, you know, I kind of just shut it down, right? They didn't really think about it anymore because I'm like, new environment.
You got to go.
Exactly.
Yeah, you got time for it.
And my mind just kind of went into this place of like, okay, I got to get comfortable here. I got to get new relationships with new coaches, new players. And went through camp, had a great camp, got into the season, and basically through that first year of the season with Cincy, didn't play too well, and then I started battling injuries, and I got to a point where at the All-Star break I was like, I remember calling my agent and being like, dude, like I don't know what to do anymore. Mm-hmm. Like I can't figure out like how to succeed here in the big leagues. I don't know what to do. And he was like, look, we had a mental performance coach that came and talked to our agency last week at the time. He was like, his name's Brian Kane. Just for me, for the sake of our relationship, like, trust me, get on the phone with him.
Yeah.
Give him 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, I don't need a mental performance coach. Like, he's not going to help me go out there and perform. And he was like, trust me. Got the bad
stigma to it.
Exactly, man. Like, and nobody's like opening up and talking about mental health in any form or fashion anywhere. And I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try. And I got on the call with him for 45 minutes. And I think within 10 minutes, I looked at him on the call and I was like, I'm all in. How much does it cost?
Really?
Yeah.
Was it a different perspective he gave you within those 10 minutes? Was it you heard something you hadn't heard before? Or was it in just a different way? Or
it was, so, I mean, I'm a little biased. I think he's 101 in the world. A lot of guys work with him across baseball in itself, but also across a lot of other sports. And not just players. I'm talking like we have a couple front office guys here that work with him, right? Mm-hmm. And it was more just like the way that he delivered. Obviously, it was new information because I just played the game. Yeah. And like I would just show up, been taught how to work hard,
right,
and like go do it.
Yeah, struggling, put your head down more.
Exactly, just grind through it.
Yeah.
And basically, just the information that he gave me was just kind of eye-opening a little bit, and then it was just very practical, right? I felt like, okay, like I can really apply this stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was at that point I was like, you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah. Damn. Did you talk to any players before that? Were you like, obviously it sounded like you were kind of standoffish at first. Nah, I don't need it, yada, yada. Were there any players you went to? Because I know you said that it was kind of almost taboo. Nobody's really talking about it. I know I told you it briefly right before that. I ended up seeing 3 of them. I ended up trying to get hypnotized. My biggest thing is what I was dealing with. I didn't want to talk about it for a full year. Mm-hmm. I'd go home, cry in my car before I walked into his family's house, or break down to my dad. But yeah, just exactly like you said. As soon as you start hearing it a different way, and then you're like, wait, maybe I do need a little help. I think that's one of the hardest things is opening up saying, I do need help, especially not only as a man, but a big leaguer.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So you'd say you're an advocate for it for sure?
No, 1,000%. And then I was the same way. I would push it down. I didn't have anybody to talk to. And at that time in 21, I mean, really, you look around the league. I mean, honestly, dude, like the only person that I would really pin on that really talked even remotely in depth about the mental side was Kobe.
Yeah.
Right? The Mambo mentality, like all of that stuff. Like really, like nobody ever... Like that was the only guy that I would see like actually talk in depth about the mental side of how to go about your business as a professional, right? To do your thing, right? To get the most out of you, right? To unlock your full potential. So there was nobody to talk to. And that's why like it ended up reverting back to me of being on a couch, bawling my eyes out to my wife, right? Because she's the one that I'm talking to. She's the one I'm trying to open up to. And I would, I wouldn't even let my, dad into it. Like I would, me and my dad would talk and be like, no, everything's great. Everything's, dandy. I love it. Everything's good. And, I'm hanging up the phone and I know it's a complete lie.
See, that's one thing I think I was always blessed with, and I hold this dear to my heart. And, it's the one thing I was missing when I was hanging up ball was those phone calls after the game to my dad. I couldn't, especially, obviously, I have a great game he's watching on TV, I can't wait to call. Tough game, might take an hour or something to call him, but I always had an exit. And as I got older, I started realizing, I'm like, this is so much bigger just to have a guy, my father, listen to me and just let me vent and rant. And it sounded like you didn't have that person, obviously, your wife that you go to, but she can't fully wrap her head around, nor should she be able to. Yeah. But seemed like as soon as you got that out, that outlet for somebody to talk to, that stuff started clearing up. And maybe half of the battle was you just walking through it in your head, telling him. Because I know when I'm talking to my dad, I'll be, complaining about something, and halfway through it, like, maybe it is my fault, or it's not that bad,
Yeah.
So that's sick. That's sick. I was going to ask you about a mantra. Do you think it's changed at all? Is it still the Kobe mentality, or has there anything you picked up?
Yeah, no, I mean, I can go deep into this if you want.
Come on. Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff, like going back to what Brian was talking about on that first call, obviously now 3.5, 4 years later of diving through all of the, he calls it the 10 pillars of mental performance, right? And he has a book. It's like a 30-day program, and it's basically an easy way for you to be able to break it down to all of this information, right? Because when it's all thrust at you, especially when you're starting from ground zero, again, because nobody's talking about it, nobody understands. Like, and I know you've heard this a million times, playing ball, right? You got to be mentally tough. You got to be mentally tough. Okay, well, how do I do it?
Right. You just
like, it's not just something you like show up and you're just like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm going to be mentally tough today.
I'm mentally tough today.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and the way that he describes it, which is super simple, and it resonates. It resonated with me, and it resonates with everybody. Is mental performance is no different than like you being a shortstop, right? So you're a shortstop, and you have to have a skill set in order to play that position, right? So how do you get better at those skill sets? You have drills.
Yeah.
Right? So when you have drills and you do these drills, you can now directly influence those skill sets in order for you to do your job properly, right? To do it at an elite level.
Yeah.
Well, the mental side is no different. Like,
repetition.
You have to have drills. You obviously have to be receiving the right information. But once you have that information, it's now receiving that information and then being able to apply it in a very simple manner of like the drills. So he starts out with like talking about, you as a man, right? You have to learn who you are, like who's the best version of yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So like when you think of Cole Freeman, what is that best version of yourself? Like what does that look like for you? And it can start at what are your principles that you live by?
Yeah,
right. So
all of my morals, that's
exactly
what I'm based on.
So like my 3 principles that I live by are being present, being neutral, and having big attitude. And it's not just being able to like pick these words and say, yeah, that sounds like me. Like being able to define these things. Like what does that truly look like for you, right? So like for me, the present, neutral, and big attitude, being present, very obvious. I want to be present, like you and me, engaging in a conversation, looking you in the eyes, talking. I'm not on my phone. I'm not looking around. I'm not doing things. I'm present in each and every moment that I'm in, right? Very obvious. Being neutral. Neutral is a very weird thing that a lot of people don't understand, right? So I like to think of it as like you have a coin, right? So you have a head and a tails. Head, you have on that one side of the coin, you have positive, right? Yeah. Obviously, you want to be positive. That's very self-explanatory. The opposite side of it, negative. You don't want to be negative. That's very self-explanatory. Right, yeah. But then on the positive side, everyone's like, okay, well, be positive. Well, I would challenge you that positive really isn't the right way to go about it, because positive is almost giving yourself like a false reality, right?
And
I'll give you exactly. Yeah. It's masking. It's like putting a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah.
So like, perfect example, you go out to a game and you're 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, right? The average person who doesn't have the understanding will be like, hey, you need to be positive, get yourself back up. And you could be in that moment sitting at your locker and you're like, okay, you know what, I'm the best. And it's like, buddy, no, you're not. You're 0 for 4 strikeouts. You're probably the worst guy on the team today. So it's not giving you that false reality. So I would challenge you, if you flip that coin up and you can flip a coin on its edge, it's living on that edge. And that's the neutral side of thinking. And where I got neutral thinking is from a book called It Takes What It Takes. And it's Russell Wilson's Mental Performance Guide.
Yeah, I've heard that one. And
so this neutral way of thinking, the book dives into it very deep. You can go very deep into it, but very simply put, it is basically just thinking about what is next. That's it. It's what is next. So keeping the same scenario, you're 0 for 4 strikeouts. So instead of being negative, obviously you don't want to do that. You don't want to be positive because you're giving yourself a false reality. Let me be neutral here. So when you get into that moment, it's okay. Digesting what just happened. Okay, I chased after everything that I wasn't supposed to chase at. I had an awful game, but now I got to go feed my body. I got to go get nutrition. And then once I get nutrition done, okay, now I got to go hit recovery. Okay, and then once recovery is done, now I got to go be present with my family. So you're giving yourself that space to digest quickly, and then you're quickly focusing on the next point of your process. And so that neutral way of thinking just allows you to be in that present moment, and it allows you to kind of digest everything the proper way, and then you're simply going on to the next thing, man. Like you need to think of yourself when you're on the field as a machine. Yeah. Emotions and feelings, they lie to you, man. Yeah. They lie. And you can't live off of those emotions and feelings. So you have to almost be like a machine. It's like, okay, what is next? What do I got to do? And what do I got to get done? So that's my second principle I live by. And then the third is big attitude. And big attitude is simply not me coming into a room and getting on top of a table and, beating my chest saying, here I am. Yeah. Big attitude is like, I am so detailed about what I do and how I go about my business that when I walk in the room, you recognize my presence. Like I have a confidence and a purpose and a plan behind what I'm doing. Yeah. So that when I walk in the room, you recognize when I'm in the room, because I'm going about my business in a very drastically different way than the other 99.
There's something slightly different.
Exactly. And so living by those three principles allows me to have kind of like an anchor of like, when I'm living by those three principles, right? And there's a saying that little boys live out of preference and men live out of principle. Uh-huh. And when you can live by those principles, you can allow yourself to show up every single day to be the best version of yourself. When I'm out here on the field being a competitor, when I'm in the house being a husband, mm-hmm. and being a father, right? And being a friend, being a brother. And it allows me to be able to be in that space and be as consistent as I can be.
All right, that's incredible. The neutral thing is, because you always hear, you don't want to get too far here, don't want to get too far there. But like, I'm a big imagery person. And as soon as you said that, you put the coin up, I see the ridges on the coin. Mm-hmm. And like, that's a reminder, like, don't get too far here, don't get too far there. Like, this is where you got to live. What do you think that would have done if you would have known that 10 years ago?
Oh, man. Maybe 1-1.
I think so.
Oh, man. Yeah, but it's a journey, man. Everybody's on their own journey. And I think even more so now because guys like yourself are very open about talking about this stuff, and it needs to be a focal point, especially on the men's side.
Yeah.
Dude, us as men are carrying a lot of stuff, man. Like I'm a believer in Christ. Mm. And Scripture is very plain about what our jobs are as men. We are protectors, we are providers, and we are the spiritual leaders of our household. Yeah. And it might just be three things, but those three things hold a tremendous amount of weight on our shoulders. And when you can just bring yourself into a space of being able to talk about it, one, receive the right information, and then be able to apply it practically into your life and be consistent with it, man. It takes work. Yeah. It takes consistent daily work. In Scripture, like walking through some of the stuff that we've walked through with my family over the last year and change, one of the things that me and my wife, that the Lord has walked us through, is understanding that you want to submit to the Father, right? You want to submit to the fact that I'm not trying to I can't create the plan for my life. Like, I can create the dreams and the aspirations and the passions that are in my heart, right? But He's the one that's going to direct the footsteps of it. And when I can get to that place of submitting. But see, the thing is that a lot of people think that this submission is done on a every Sunday basis, on a yearly basis. Submission is moment to moment.
I agree.
And when you can submit yourself moment to moment, and in the same way, flip side onto the mental side, and you're able to work that on a daily basis, moment to moment, work yourself, you're going to bring yourself up out of whatever pit you're in. All of us are going through extreme darknesses, right? It's just everyone's extreme darkness looks a little different. It might be somebody losing a job. It might be, your 5-year-old daughter going through cancer.
Right.
It's a wide range of things, but each is experiencing that extreme darkness. And when you can bring yourself to that submission moment to moment, and then also getting and receiving the right information and then applying it practically, man, like you're going to pull yourself out of that pit.
Have you got to the point where your ambition is obviously driving you so far, and you want to get the next, Have you reached a point where you had to start controlling your ambition? So the example I'll give you is, we were playing Florida junior year at home, and they were number one at the time. Puck was on the mound that first night. And I had a game where I went 3 for 4. And I remember my last at bat, I was looking for an inside fastball, like always, pull it down the line. And
get my double.
Right. And I got that pitch, and I ended up missing it. And I popped it up to like shallow short, whatever, or deep short. And I remember there's a picture of me somebody took down the line. And we had won the game and all, 3 for 4, number one team. And I remember being swallowed up so much by like beating myself down where I'm like, oh, you think you're good, you just went, did 3 for 4, but you got a pitch that you were looking for, and if you want to be a separator, you've got to not miss that pitch. And there's a picture, my hat's leaned up, I'm leaning over, and my dad's got both his arms on me. And it looks like we just lost.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and obviously I look back now, I'm like, one, I shouldn't be that far down, because that was obviously, you wanted to live and breathe just whatever the team was, and you just cared about the winning and stuff. But like, I was making myself sick to a point where like I wasn't enjoying what I was accomplishing. And then it would like just accumulate and snowball when it wasn't even that big of a deal. Yeah. Have you had any of that in the big leagues? I mean, I know you talked a little bit about, the up and down and stuff like that, but have you figured out like, okay, hey, I do want that, but maybe I need to pump the brakes a little bit, like give myself a little grace almost, like, because you said, like, we wear so much on our shoulders. Sometimes it's all right to be all right.
Of course, man, yeah. And I would break that off into two things, right? So I think first, and the thing that I go to first is referring to, my faith and how I walk through life with Christ. And one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people struggle with is coveting. Right? You covet these things that you want, and they're great. You should have things that you want.
Yeah.
But when you can understand that Christ is enough, right? So he's more than enough for you. Like you might think that you want that 4th hit. You might think that you want that contract extension. You might think that you want that national championship, that World Series trophy. But those things are temporary. And you hear it all the time. You hear athletes talk about it all the time. Like, oh, I achieved, I won the Super Bowl, and it was great for that night. And then the next morning it was like, okay, now what? Right? And that's the exact thing that Scripture refers to, is just like we all like to think that we know what we want, but really all of these things are fleeting. It's like in Ecclesiastes, it's a small book in Scripture, and King Solomon talks about it's like a passing of wind. It's like here and there, and it's all fleeting. And when you can realize that, you need to be careful with coveting these things, and bring yourself back to that place of He is enough, and I'm content with Him.
Yeah.
And then the flip side, to talk about the mental side of getting yourself to that place of kind of channeling that ambition a little bit, defining success for you.
I was going to read one of the last
when
questions.
When you define success for yourself, it can't be based off of obvious, and everybody knows this, but you always fall into it. It can't be dictated off of performance. It can't be dictated off of these things that you have zero control over. And so diving deeper into like those principles, what does success look like for you? And success for me is executing my process and being relentless at it each and every single day.
Yeah.
And if I can do that from the time I wake up to when I lay my head down at night, I know that I achieved success today, regardless of what happened out on the field, regardless of how I was in conversations with people, whatever it might be, right? Because you have stuff that happens, right? Life happens. Yeah. But here's the kicker, is that nobody tells you how to do that. So How do you do that? You have to break down your day. So I schedule my entire day. So I have a Google Calendar. I schedule every single night before I go to sleep. One of the last things I do is I go through my entire next day, and I time block my entire day. And then from that point, everything that's within that time block, I transferred over to an app that I use called Habit Share. And it just is very simple to what the name is. It tracks your habits.
Right.
And all of the things in my Habit Share are everything that I need to do on a daily basis that's in my time blocks. And every single night, so another scenario, right? So you go through your day, and you had an awful day in the game. You had an awful day at work. Life happened, and you just had a terrible day.
Part of life, yeah.
I know that when I lay my head down at night, if I got through 80% of my schedule, how I time blocked it, and then I go into that Habit Share, and the Habit Share is like it's like a bunch of little bubbles, and I can click on it, that specific habit, and I can click green or red. I either did it or I didn't. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times I lay my head down at night and I had an awful day, feelings rise, right, emotions, and then I scroll through that Habit Share, and I think right now I'm tracking somewhere around 56 habits. Mm-hmm. And I will go through that thing and scroll through it, and I will see
56 a day?
A day. Wow. And I will have all greens. And I can lay my head down at night and be like, you know what, dude, I kicked today's ass. And so now you're taking the feelings and emotions out of what we all like to dictate off of how we're going to feel. Well, now I'm transferring that into stuff that I have complete control, because none of these habits have anything to do with me going up there and driving a fastball over the fence.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with things that are in my control. Like, I have complete control over it. And when you can break that down and do that for yourself, now I can take that ambition, and yes, like every single year I have goals, I have things that I want to achieve. But it's where people get into trouble is that, like, think of it like a mountain, and right, like you have these ambitions, you have all of these things that you want to achieve, and they're at the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. And if every single day, and if you're doing it right, that mountain should look damn far away from you.
Very high.
You should.
Yeah.
That's the way life should be. You should be trying to achieve everything that you want to achieve and more.
Yeah.
It should look like a big mountain. But if you're staring up at that mountain each and every single day, it's going to be a little terrifying. And what about when that ground shakes? What about when things don't start working out for you? Now it's going to look even further away for you. So all of these things, like the principles, the time blocking, the habit share, your AM and PM routine, like very simple things that I have complete control over, it now takes me out of that space of staring up that mountain. I know they're there. I know where I want to get to. But now instead of staring up at that mountain, I'm just staring at the next 200 feet in front of me. All I'm worrying about is my next 168 hours in a week. All I'm worrying about is my next 86,400 seconds in a day.
Not overwhelming yourself.
I am horse blinders on what do I got to get done in these next 168 hours this week, 86,400 seconds in a day. And I can lay my head down at night knowing that I achieved everything I wanted to accomplish. And now I'm taking feelings and emotions out of it. I'm still trekking my way up that mountain toward those ambitions, but I'm focusing on the next 200 feet in front of me.
So control what you can control, but we've heard that our entire life, but without a great explanation like that. Like the sayings, like, oh, we've got to be tough and all that stuff. Control what you control. We hear that all the time. Can't control the weather. Manera, you're not putting an asterisk by this game. But again, like what you were talking about earlier, there's no handbook on this. Like, you've got to work through it. You've got to go through your times. You were talking about your habits and stuff. I look at it as little wins, because there's going to be days you wake up, you're going to have a bad day. It's just God's plan that day. But how can I get to the end of the day and feel like I had a bad day, but I still accomplished some stuff? I start writing, so I write affirmation every day. And part of it is my morals guide me, my standard drives me. My morals are what I believe in. Obviously, believe in the Lord, all that, and that's who I am. And I wish I would have got this while I was still playing ball a little bit more, but that's who I am to my core. I know that's how I want to perceive myself. That's what I care about. My standard is that ambition part is what really pushes me. But when my standard gets too high, my morals will pull me back. Hey, it's okay, you didn't finish this or get this job done right here. You're still this person. It's not relying off that hit or that home run or making that play.
It's drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah, it's drawing a line in the sand. And even what I'll do is after I write all that, I'll start writing down what I have to do. Say I didn't write my affirmation right in the morning. It's midday. I will still go write boxes of what I have to do, even if I already did it. And I will check the box.
Yeah, because up here you're seeing it.
Yes, and here I did that.
Yep.
I did that because especially right after I retired, I had no fluidity. I didn't know. It took me 2 weeks to realize I need to work out 5 days a week for my mental sanity. Okay, now that's in my routine. But I had a ton of free time. And the free time is what's bad for up here. You start creating scenarios. I got to be this, that. And I just noticed from checking those little boxes, the next day I open up, look, I did have a good day. I might not have had a ton, but what I had to take care of, I did take care of. So
there was a mantra that Kane has called you got to be in control of yourself before you can control your performance. And a lot of people like to skip that first part and go right to the second part.
Yeah.
And that part of controlling yourself is like what you're talking about. Like, you need to draw the line in the sand. You got to have above and below the line behaviors.
Yeah.
And when you can do that for yourself, you are now starting to control yourself. So therefore, and it's a little weird because it's like you can't control your performance, but you can influence it.
Yeah. If you could give 17, 18-year-old Jake, about to go into LSU, got the whole world in front of him, what would be one thing that you would tell him, hey, this is what you need to know?
Be okay with failing. And, failing is, everybody can apply what that looks like for them, right? Like, not, this is coming from me as a baseball player because it's my job, it's what I do. It's, very applicable to, being out on the field and doing my job, but anybody can apply that. And I think, something that I have to constantly tell myself this, especially within a game that requires so much failure, is you're never going to get better on the practice field.
Throw yourself in the fire.
Go in the fire, man.
Dude.
Yes. When you get yourself in the fire, when you get uncomfortable, that's where you're growing. Have the tough conversations. Open up and be a little sensitive about what you're going through. Be okay with being in the fire, right? Because that's where you're going to grow. That's where you're going to expand your mind to bigger and better things of where you're envisioning yourself to go. And I think a lot of people just stray away from that. I mean, it's human nature. We're creatures of comfort.
Yeah.
But the more that you can get yourself uncomfortable, right? You have to find yourself in a place where you are comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And when you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're in the right place.
Yeah. That's as good as it gets then. Jake, I appreciate everything,
for
brother.
Sure, man.
You're the man.
Absolutely.